Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of the Disgruntled Geeks podcast. And we decided to have our 10th episode bash a week late.
This is the after party.
Yeah, the after party for episode 10 by having not one, but two returns this week.
A first for this show.
Yeah, first we've had two returns. Now, Jamie's been on a couple of episodes already. So you guys probably recognize the scraggly beard by this point, for those that are watching.
Yeah,
but
somebody else other than me.
Yeah, as always, you've got me, Ronnie, as one of your hosts, as well as my better-looking and much smarter co-host, Ben.
Why must you lie to the people? By the way, hi, how you doing?
I never lie.
Are you working on your politics?
Just a little. And, of course, I mentioned Jamie. We've got the ever-scraggly Jamie with us.
It's growing.
It's growing. It is growing. And we have Dr. Malcolm with us.
All right, that is a lie. That one is. It's in progress.
It's in progress.
You look like
I have
a doctor.
no official degree yet. By the powers of the state of,
But you can still help me with my problem, right? That requires the surgery. You said meet you behind the nail salon.
Yeah, I would like to apologize for that again, by the way.
No, it's fine. The kidney needed to come out anyway.
Wow, that's like it just took me on like a mental time traveling trip back to the Charlie and Candy Mountain video. Like, they stole my kidney.
Everybody loved that, and I was just kind of like, okay, when does the joke happen? And then they're like, no, this is the joke. And I'm like, no, this is dumb. So I never really bought into Charlie the Unicorn.
But it's the magical Leoplorodon, Charlie.
Yeah,
Shun the non-believer.
I'm gonna keep watching this Doom Eternal thing if you don't mind.
That is probably way more entertaining than Charlie and Candy Mountain in our reality.
No, not wrong about that. My God. All right, I just kidding. I'm gonna try to talk about it.
Old internet memes.
Yes, man, that was a different time on the internet. A time that we don't want to revisit.
When I'm a curator, I'll have to curate internet memes in some form of archiving.
That would be
national. That's going to be like in the Museum of Modern Art at some point.
Jeez.
I hope not.
Museum.
Or the Metropolitan, like in a little. It'll be called the YouTube exhibit.
Of the Metropolitan, Charlie the Unicorn.
Yeah.
I
mean, worse things have happened in the world, so like, why not?
That's true.
It's gonna. I mean, it's influenced. It was like a time when you would sit down and you'd be like, hey, watch this YouTube video. It's like it was before all of these different media things attacked you all the time. Not to sound like a cranky old man. And it's not that I'm not saying that.
In my day.
I mean, like how we're doing right now, attacking people who are watching on Twitch with our opinions.
No. I mean, so what I'm not saying that it was better then.
Okay.
I'm just saying it was different then. See, then you had that obnoxious friend that was like, watch this YouTube video. And nowadays, you can just use all of these ways to ghost him. But in the olden times, you're like, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh.
Yes. Woo! That's a one F-bomb per episode. So, damn. I was saving that one.
I'm sorry, guys.
Now I'm just threw it on the ground in front of you.
we made it 11 episodes, guys. 11 episodes.
Really impressive.
Fudge monkeys.
Everyone's gonna think though that like I don't even swear that much. It's just, I forgot. I even told myself like as I was pulling in the driveway to like get set up. I'm like, don't swear, Malcolm.
Disney Marvel movie.
That is $20 in the swear jar.
Man. I feel all right. Well,
I get at least 3 of that.
So for all the kiddies that watch, we apologize profusely.
Uncle Malcolm or
Dr. Malcolm.
Honorary guest, or maybe dishonored guest, Malcolm, profusely apologizes.
That's okay. You're a doctor. Just write us a prescription for more swear words.
We're gonna allow it for comedic value there. That was wonderful.
That was good.
Certainly, it was very spontaneous. All right, I'm gonna step back a minute because I feel like I've derailed this enough.
Right. Well, that seems like the perfect transition for Ben. What have you been doing this week?
I've been at war.
At war?
At war. The cannibals in the forest have decided that my fort is no longer welcome on their beach. And so every day for the past few days I've been playing, in-game days, I mean, there's been about 5 or 6 cannibals that just appear on my beach and decide they're going to be the ones to take it down.
So has anyone succeeded yet?
People have got in.
Beach? Or would you call it maybe some type of aggregate of trees, maybe, or a collection of shrubbery? Okay, I was just
Stop with your doctor terms.
I was just trying to get us to call the game the forest.
I see.
That's where I was going. That's where I was going with that. But that bit just got ruined. I'm sorry, guys.
Here we go again.
So I'm sitting on my coastline, and while cannibals have gotten in, they have failed miserably at knocking anything. Well, I take it back. They've taken one casualty, my drying rack.
No.
They knocked
it's like
that
8
down.
sticks.
Yes, and I've been very upset about that. I rebuilt it. It's bigger, better, and stronger. But
did you make the cannibals pay for it?
Oh, they did. They have in spades.
They're currently drying on the rack.
Yeah. Well, they would be, except I seem to have become the Fire Lord, and so like whenever they die, they just feed the fire.
Yes.
They all go into the fire. I don't care if I have too many bones. All in the fire. The fire will show us the way home.
Right.
And then I've also had to up the fortifications because I was coming home with my shopping cart full of logs, and the ground suddenly shook, and I was like, "There's no earthquakes in this game." So I look over to my right, and there's a cow man, like this big fat man baby.
Yeah, and it's actually its official title is Cowman.
I just call him man baby, and he's just patrolling, not near my base, but he's like the perimeter of where the trees are. He hasn't seen me, but I'm just here like. Just got my cart.
Yeah. Sneaking by.
Yeah. I'm not here. I'm not here. So that's when all our budget went into making defenses. So everything on the left side of my coast is now all the happy birthday traps, the ones where it pops up and just hits them in the face with spikes. And those have been paying for themselves really well because I'll at least get one in each of them, and sometimes I even get a double.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Although once they're up, it's kind of hit or miss on if they are able to go past them or not, because sometimes they'll treat it like a wall and just kind of stare at it.
Right.
But then other times it's like they'll go for a run, and it feels like they do a parkour thing where they grab onto the sticks and then flip over, and they're on the other side.
Right.
Well,
for those that are really unfamiliar with the forest, we actually have a video archived on Twitch of us playing the forest.
Yeah, we'll probably do that again someday.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the gameplay, that's a perfect opportunity to go to our Twitch page, check it out. It's actually really entertaining. It was what is the way you put it? Is I survived long enough to become the cannibal?
Yes. You did not die the passenger. You lived long enough to become the cannibal.
Right. Malcolm, what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? I guess in life stuff, I've moved all my belongings to my grad school that I'll be going to Old Bama.
All right.
So that's pretty exciting. I had a buddy help move that.
You gonna go to Birmingham?
I'll be going to Birmingham. Yeah, at the.
It's a good place for a lot of different hobby stores.
Yeah, no, they got some good comic book stores, and I'm definitely, where we currently live is not really a lot of stuff, a lot of good nerd stuff.
Why do you think I ended up playing WoW? It's because of where we lived.
Yeah, it wasn't fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that, and then besides that, so last time I was on, I was playing Bloodborne, so I finished that up. That sort of indulgence in masochism, and now I'm playing. Fun. No, yeah, I know, it feels great. It feels great.
I love being thrown down the stairs.
Yeah, no, I sort of love to be
abused. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You're doing a thing. Okay.
I'm doing. That game just, I don't know, sort of dark. Well, dark twisted horror, and just sort of like you don't really get it, and you're just trudging through all of it, and everything's terrible, and all you're going to do is suffer, and it's just like, oh, I'm into that.
Hurt me more.
I know exactly. I'm the ninja from Gray Fox, to be deep cut for the Metal Gear Solid fans.
And the sad thing about any of the Soulsborne games is you get to the end of it and you're just like, oh, I love you. Just like a real abusive relationship.
Well, yeah, because you do New Game Plus, and you go back and you just crush it because you've learned every sort of little facet of it. Obviously, they change some things when you go through for a New Game Plus, but yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. That being said, now I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5 just to go for old time's sake. I'm a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
So you've been watching the Metal Gear Solid movies, what you're telling me.
Actually, Metal Gear Solid 5, yes, that is a fair criticism for like all the other Metal Gears. But Metal Gear Solid 5 almost seems like a reaction to that that particular critique. Right. All the cutscenes are skippable. They're not very long either. Kind of disjointed, actually. I think it actually hurts the game. I think it's too much of a reaction in the other direction. But just like BioShock and the vein of other sort of emergent storytelling experiences. You can say that I worked in, TM. Yes, exactly. I'm at E3 right now selling my game.
What is cloud gaming?
What is cloud gaming? They do voice recordings. So of course everybody, happens to have 1 to 2 minute tapes where they record incredibly, important pieces of dialogue for you to find and then listen to. Story and plot details, but you can do it while you play.
Right.
So if you want to ignore all of it and you're just thinking like, I just want to sneak around and, balloon people up and make my army, massive, then go for it. But if you actually want to pay attention to all the story details, you can get into the minutia. So that's very long-winded. Yes, I watched all the movies. I'm watching the Metal Gear Solid movies. Yes.
I think
let's just go with that.
I think the best usage I've ever seen of the audio log trope in games that have come out since BioShock was the ones of the homeless man in Stick of Truth.
It's so great, yes.
Those were so funny.
They just
keep leaving these audio logs. Why aren't they trying to find a way to escape, but they just sit here and record them?
right.
The next one. Okay, I kind of found one that was kind of interesting. That was so good. Let's Stick of Truth.
So this week, speaking of masochism, earlier, Malcolm, I actually watched the entirety of the show Insatiable yesterday.
Okay.
Which is a show that just dropped on Netflix, and let me tell you, was it a practice in masochism. It kind of reminds me, for anybody who's seen Santa Clarita Diet, because it's kind of over the top. It's less in the fantasy elements, because Santa Clarita Diet has the whole zombie thing going on. But it's a little bit less in the fantasy elements, but it's still like really over the top. Like the whole story is you've got this girl who's overweight. She gets punched by a homeless man, and she has to have her mouth fused shut or whatever.
I was really hoping you were going to say, and then she gained superpowers.
No, she didn't. But she became really skinny. I thought that
the punching was going to somehow lead to her like transforming or something. But, sorry, go on.
but no, so she becomes like extremely skinny, and so she plans to get revenge on everybody who ever made fun of her when she was fat. But the way that she does this is by entering a beauty pageant. And she's working with this lawyer who's like obviously gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he's in the closet. He won't even admit to himself that he is, and he's like coaching her in it, and it just goes crazy where you have like the lawyer and the DA, they hate each other, but then by the end of it they hook up. Spoilers, by the way, but this show's horrible, so please don't watch it.
I would have tapped out a long time ago.
Yeah. But then, like, the way it ended, and this is, like, major spoilers for the end of it. So, you have all of this, like, coming-of-age story stuff going on with, like, some slightly over-the-top, because there's, like, demonic possession that happens at one point. It just gets crazy.
Is this a David Cage game?
It really feels like it in a way. But at the very end of the last episode, like, literally the girl kills 2 people. And I'm like... Wow, that escalated quickly. Holy! But it was, there's a lot of people criticizing it by the way that it handles the overweight issues and LGBT issues. And it's like, I just want to tell people, like, be quiet. It's a freaking comedy. It's a terrible comedy at that. Like,
yeah, I would have probably gotten past the first episode. I probably would have tuned out as soon as I realized that the homeless person punching her didn't give her superpowers.
Right.
Like, no, I'm done.
It gave her super hot powers.
I mean, that's sort of a power, but it's not really an interesting one.
Right. But I do not recommend the show for anybody. Like, you got to the middle of the day, and I'm like, I'm halfway through the series. I might as well finish it. But, Lord, it was terrible.
But when you got halfway through the second half, were you just like, I could be doing laundry right now?
I was thinking more like I could be, like, rubbing sandpaper on my face.
I mean, there's that, too. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't seem like it passes the Ronnie scale.
Actually, I hear that that's a beauty pageant technique to make it nice and smooth.
Yeah.
So, maybe something's rubbing off on you. You know what I mean?
Trying to immerse you in the experience.
Yeah.
Maybe it was indoctrinating you into
don't you go killing two people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how the show ended, but don't you do it.
Well, I will tell you that there were some really clever jokes in it. Like, there's this restaurant called Taco Wiener. That like it's repeatedly in the show, and like there's like the smaller and the bigger version, so you have like the slim wiener and the jumbo wiener.
Oh, really?
And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, it's good. So,
if anybody on the internet owned a restaurant,
right? So, Jamie, get us off this topic. What have you been up to this week?
Ronnie wants off the jumbo wiener.
It's not going to help because I watched Idiocracy this week.
Oh, you mean the documentary?
Oh yeah, what the movie with like light eugenics is sort of the premise of that show,
right?
Or that movie.
Oh, it's so great. So that's all you've done this week is watch Idiocracy.
Well, I did that. I'm no longer homeless.
Well, that's a good thing.
I have a vehicle.
Wait, yeah, Jamie punched the girl. Jamie punched the girl.
I actually got the house so that I can hide my identity.
Is that so that it doesn't come out that you punched her, or so you'll come out as a failure for not giving her superpowers?
Superpowers.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanted her to become Deadpool, right?
The secret's out. Shame.
The funny thing is the homeless guy actually died, so, Jamie, you're actually dead right now. You're in hell.
Well, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
But so we'll go ahead and go into our topic for the week, man. We spent like nearly half the episode just doing that. That was kind of, we had
what
an
happens
eventful
when you
week.
double up on the hosts that have all been doing different things.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, this is a very if I could English today, that was a varied amount of subjects there.
Yep.
So, but what we're going to kind of talk about today is something that all four of us are extremely interested in and have quite a bit of experience doing, and that is pen and paper RPGs.
Yeah.
So I know
we've all played one, at least one.
Malcolm here is kind of the pen and paper master. So.
Oh man, last time you set me up on this show to be a master of something, I really walked into it. I feel like this is only going to go badly.
I'm not falling for that again.
Come on, Dr. Malcolm.
I am a meager. Sorry, what was that, Jamie?
Come on, Dr. Malcolm.
Oh God, please stop calling me that. I am not. I am sure that's like I'll get like in legal trouble or something. It's like you said you were a doctor.
In 5 years, I'm just gonna I'm storing all those jokes of Dr. Malcolm. It's like I'm holding on to them. I'm gonna wait.
It's like a Dragon Ball Z episode. You're just like powering it up over 5 years.
Powering it up.
You're in the hyper timey wimey chamber.
That's right. Yeah. I'm just waiting.
So we're just gonna start out like we've all played D&D and some different form of each of us together. Not all four of us ever at one time, but we've had various groups together within this group. So I'll kind of explain for those that really don't know much about D&D. They just know it as that. Oh, that's the demonic thing that my pastor told me to stay away from.
That's how you summon Satan and catch the gay.
Right. Whoa. Okay. Woo. Okay. That was good. God, we're gonna get sued for this episode.
Challenge accepted.
Jokes on them. I don't have any money.
Oh yeah. Neither does Jamie. He's homeless.
Ex homeless.
What a pen and paper RPG is essentially it's really like a system that you kind of get to just step into a character and you have dice that kind of dictate what you can and can't do. And that's about the way to break it down the simplest. Usually it's set within a fantasy world. You have sci-fi ones. There are some superhero ones, stuff like that. But D&D is the most popular, which is very heavily based on Tolkien fantasy. And so all it is you have these attributes you make up, and you get to step into the role and really control what the character does. And you have one player who is what you call the dungeon master or the game master, who really tells the story that your characters are interacting with.
Yeah, they're the narrator.
Yeah. So it's essentially like the most interactive video game you can possibly think of, because you get to choose the dialogue. You get to choose every little aspect of what your character does and is. And it's really really a fun thing.
Yes. No, you go on. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead, Malcolm.
If anything, you could say that like video games are created like from like the first RPGs are probably come from like the mechanics of D&D, like the first Diablos or Baldur's Gate or those things are like very much.
The first Knights of the Old Republic was essentially D&D 3.5 with Star Wars on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the gameplay was.
And so it's really the reason why it's called a role playing game is because you literally step into that role of that character, and you are playing that role. So with kind of the foundation laid, I guess one of the funnest things to do, especially for our listeners who are familiar with D&D, and it'd be a good way to kind of start conversation here, is let's just talk about our favorite characters that we've ever played.
Okay.
Ben, what is your absolute favorite character you've ever played?
I think my favorite character is one that I really haven't kind of fully realized because we haven't gone back to the campaign. But Malcolm is the game master for most of the ones I've played recently. And he's doing a sci-fi one. And I played a bounty hunter. And he was kind of based on... But like, because usually like when I played D&D, I was kind of like the edgy character in a lot of them.
Right.
And like this bounty hunter was like the first time where I wasn't gonna play like a serious grim character. Like he was just gonna be reacting to everything, and he would just be kind of more out in the open and just overreact to things and try to shoot them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's really fun about D&D, especially when you've been playing for a while, or any kind of RPG, is like finding that character that you don't normally play and like jumping into that and really trying to figure out how to make that character work compared to your usual character.
It's like, because there's a certain set of, I guess you could call it acting, although acting is done for more serious things, but it's just trying to act as somebody that you wouldn't picture yourself normally being. So it's like being someone different.
Right.
And so it's like, how would I imagine that to be? So, like, if I was going to make a guy who is more like Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy rather than, you know, a wizard with the attitude of Batman, you know, it's like, well, I'm going to jump to that instead. It's just fun to do.
Right. I mean, that's just part of the fun of the game in general, is just jumping into a role.
Yep.
You know, and you get to choose literally going in, like, what is my role? Like, you're not just with what kind of character am I playing. I'm going to play a healer or DPS like you would in something like WoW. But you get to, like, you know, am I going to be the goofy one of the group? Am I going to be, you know, the brooding dark guy? Am I going to be, you know, the crazy stupid guy? You know, you get to choose your role.
The crazy klepto, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, nah, never mind.
Malcolm, what is your favorite character you've ever played?
I've made a few. I usually, when I play a character, I hate to say this, I usually am trying to troll the game master, the dungeon master. I'll say, except for, I would say
one
for,
of those.
I'm one of those. I'll say I know I'm going to cheat, but I'm going to give two. One is I'll give you a trolly example and then like a more sincere example. My more sincere example is actually when Ben did a campaign off the Fate system based on the Dresden files. I played or really wanted to play sort of a Constantine from the DC or Vertigo comics. There's like a Alan Moore stretch of the Constantine series I'm a big fan of. He's like, I don't know, are you guys familiar with the Constantine character?
Yes.
Okay. You know, he's a Brit. He's got attitude, but he's kind of like a jerk, and he's, you know, he is always trying to like cheat people out of stuff, and you know, he usually works in like the very morally gray line. But what I like is in Ben's campaign, I had no magical abilities, which I just sort of like being a character in a world that didn't have any real special skills, but just sort of had to use his wits and his sort of knowledge in the world and of the lore of the world to get ahead, as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to summon the power of Gaethor of the Fifth Realm, and I'm going to burn you all down. I mean, not that that's also fun. I don't want to like, you know, that's also great fun
Yeah,
to do that.
The other two players in that campaign, like one was a werewolf, and then the other one was like the emissary of Vulcan, so he had like powers based on fire, and so it's like you had those two superpowered monsters, and then just Malcolm, the guy,
The dude.
You need the dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, I was like this I wasn't the smart one. I was just the one that like paid attention to when the DM was giving like clearly very obvious character moments. It's like, oh, I should pay attention to this.
I'm pretty sure I know the other two you were playing with, so yes, I can see this.
Yes, and then my trolley character, it was another actual Fate system. It was in sort of a post-apocalyptic world, and I played a robot that pleasured men specifically, and that was also he had very high charisma, as you would imagine, and I sort of based him off like, what if C3PO was like a sex bot? That was kind of like my inspiration.
This episode of the Disgruntled Geeks is rated R for adult content, crude humor, and strong language.
Sex is a natural thing that people do, so that can't be R. And everybody likes Star Wars, and I didn't swear, so I'm okay.
You didn't swear
I've done
again.
nothing. This is for parents that are covering their children's ears. I am teaching them something about life. Okay, I'm teaching them about fan favorite C3PO, who's been in every Star Wars movie, and I'm teaching about the love of sex and about the eventual collapse of civilization once robots start, letting us have sex. But yes, I played a robot. I won't say his name because his name actually was an acronym that did spell a naughty word, so I won't do that. But it was based on.
You can tell us after the show.
Sure, I'll tell you guys after the after hours.
This will be the Disgruntled Geeks after dark.
What was it? A funny bit was that on the alien planet he didn't have access to Wi-Fi, so like his character's like a character developing moment, which is something I love about sort of these campaigns, is when like taking your character to weird places, is that there are no patch updates. So there was actually like a virus in his head that was like getting worse, and so eventually, like he wasn't like a dumb robot, but like that only was just like vibrated or whatever. I mean, he had AI and things like that. So the idea is that like more as the only options he would consider was like offering people sex, even in instances that were like not really.
So like that's not really that was your only move.
Yeah. I would like persuade people. That was like my persuasion roles would be like, I would like to court them. And he's like, you're fighting. I was like, yeah, I know, but like my virus. It was like it was also self-imposed. Like my DM was like, please, you don't have to do this. I'm like, no, this is great. I love this.
Yes. You love that kind of character stuff. It's great.
Yeah, I really love and actually as Ben was mentioning, like the acting part, like that's what I really like. The numbers and the dice rolling, I find actually like less enjoyable. Like obviously it's great when you roll a nat 20 or whatever, when you kill a monster and you get the good dice rolls, but I'm never trying to like make the optimal character build like you would in an MMO or in Diablo.
No, there's no reason to min max in a pen and paper RPG. You're there to have fun with your character.
Yeah,
that is. Yeah.
People that do that frustrate me because I've played with some of those guys with the group that I currently play with, where they're just trying to min max, and I'm like, but your character isn't interesting. He's Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, and
I think like the other end of that spectrum is you make a character that's like too special, because I've been told stories about one where it's like a mutual friend of ours was like gonna do a campaign, or he's part of a campaign, and like one of the guys was like, okay, so it's D&D, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna be a kobold that has a slug mount and this whatever. It's just like, what?
No. That sounds like something Jamie would do.
Hold on now.
And then, but then like there was another one where it's like they were gonna be in this town, and the guy's like, okay, I'm gonna be a goblin with the high charisma. And he's like, you know they're incredibly racist toward goblins and will shoot you on sight. No, but I have high charisma. I can talk them out of it. They are literally aiming the gun at you right now. No, I'll just talk them out of it. You've already been shot. You're dead.
That's a good DM or GM. That is a good GM.
I don't think that's what they actually did, but that's what they should have done, because it's like, look, I don't care if your charisma's this high. If they are just prejudiced toward you to where that's kill on sight, it doesn't matter.
Right.
They are literally burning you at the stake right at this moment as you're trying to tell them your funny joke.
Jamie, what's your favorite D&D character you've ever played?
Okay, so my favorite character was named Gug. He was a half-orc barbarian who was a mercenary because he had to get a bunch of money so he could send it home to Mama Gug.
Okay.
He was...
It's a wholesome goal.
Yeah.
Wholesome Gug.
Yeah, he was wholesome Gug.
That's not what I expect from a barbarian.
Was Mama Doug, or is it Gud or Doug?
Gug.
G-U-G.
Gug.
G-U-G.
Oh, okay. Okay, Gug. Was Gug, was Mama the orc half, or was it?
Mama was the
half?
orc half.
Okay.
Mama was the orc half. She was very aggressive, but you love Mama Gug. Mama Gug would probably kill you.
Sounds like your mother.
but he loves Mama Gug. And so he goes to get money so he can send money home to Mama Gug. He hates Daddy. Doesn't know where Daddy is.
Mama Gug probably ate Daddy.
And he is obsessed with the pointy crowny thing. Because he found out that the pointy crowning thing gives humans power.
Oh, the crown. Okay, I gotcha.
That is actually a fantastic character. I mean, like, that is... I mean, I'm being all sincere. That's actually brilliant. Like, just...
It kind of reminds me of Strong from Fallout.
Yeah,
really.
Must find milk of human kindness.
Oh, yeah. No,
makes humans strong.
That's totally what, yeah.
Some people want, like, really intricate backstories and, like, want to make these really complex characters, but then don't
There's beauty in the simplicity.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they make your character so complex, like you're like, I actually don't really know how I would act in this situation. But when you have like 3 goals or like 2 goals, it just becomes very easy to role play with that, because you're like, I need to get money, I fight my dad, I help my mom, I want that crown. Like, that's very impressive. I'm jealous that you made like such a, I don't know, like a really good stream. And I'm being very sincere, by the way. I know that I can sound sarcastic, but I am seriously very impressed by that. Okay,
I kind of want to see somebody draw a picture of Gug and Mama Gug, and like Mama Gug is just Gug with a blonde wig.
Yeah.
Or actually,
I accept that lipstick.
Like Mama Gug becomes like the Disgruntled Geeks like mascot. Let's do it.
If we haven't chased away any artists yet, could you please get on that for us?
I know a few.
Okay.
So my favorite character.
Actually, though, you should have Gug. Gug looks like wimpier next to Mama.
Oh yeah.
Gug had really strong stats. Like, he was really strong. He just was really stupid. The half gnome, he thought the half gnome was a weapon. He picked it up and chunked it at a necromancer once and killed it because he rolled a critical 20.
Oh wow!
And ever since that point, he picked up the gnome. He carried the gnome on his shoulders because he thought it was a weapon. It was his greatest weapon.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah, I can't blame him. All right, what's your favorite character, Ronnie?
So my favorite character I ever played is actually similar to Gug. It's a little bit different. My character was a half, or it was not a half. It was a dwarf, barbarian, who was hit on the head before the campaign started.
Uh-oh.
And therefore had amnesia and an intelligence score of 5.
Oh dear.
But he was a barbarian and he couldn't remember anything, but he had a really high wisdom. So like he could actually like reason out things that would be based around wisdom rather than intelligence.
Yeah.
But he was just really strong. The backstory, all I really know of his backstory is that he was in the Woodcarvers Guild for the dwarves because it's his 5th edition. And he had some really funny moments in what we've played so far with him. He at one point we got to this big house with an outhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately he goes running at it, just like, I gotta go poop! I gotta go poop! So he gets to the outhouse, and when he opens the door, there is a bear in the outhouse.
Oh, dear.
He
You should
literally
have knocked before you entered.
Yeah,
Very rude.
so he yells at one of the elves in the group, who is actually a male elf, but he doesn't realize that the elf is male. He just calls the elf Pretty Elf Lady. He yells at the elf lady to grab his big axe for him, and the elf lady actually rolled a natural 1 on picking up the axe.
Oh dear.
And so took the elf out of the combat. He ends up killing the bear with his bare hands. Because I just go rage and just rips the bear, right?
Dwarf must improvise.
So the funny story is though, it's it ends up the outhouse gets destroyed in the fight with the bear. But after this, he goes running into the bushes to go poop. And while he's pooping, a wizard comes out and attacks the group.
Oh, no.
So I do this thing where it's I just jump up and jump out of my pants. And the DM's roll for it. And I rolled a 20.
Oh dear.
So all of a sudden, you just get this little image of this dwarf just jumping up out of the bushes, and his pants are flying off behind him. And he ends up fighting the fight with no pants on.
Outstanding.
Against the wizard. And it was my greatest D&D moment ever.
That's something to be proud of.
So for those that don't play D&D, see what you're missing.
Yeah, stories like this.
You have crazy stuff that happens, and you just gotta have fun with it. But we are the Disgruntled Geeks. I gotta talk about something bad.
Here we go.
Okay. What's that?
4th edition. What were they thinking?
MMO good, so we be like MMO.
It just, and I know 4th edition's old. It's old now. 5th edition is out. They've rectified a lot of it, but
The past die, Ronnie.
I can't. I've got when it comes to Wizards of the Coast, occasionally I get a little riled up with some of the things they do.
Really?
Yeah. But 4th edition just was a slap in the face to traditional D&D players, because it was nothing like anything D&D had ever been. Did any of y'all ever play 4th?
No,
Got to play for
because
it.
I always heard about how terrible it was. So
I thought
just
first and
avoided it.
second edition though were pretty. I mean, there's always that. Just like any video game, I know I guess I'll
Careful
be
now.
the unyielding optimist. Well, then this will be something that Ronnie can play off of.
Yay.
That first and second edition were, I don't know, with especially with D&D, there's always the push and pull between. So I never played 4th edition, but I sat in for a 4th edition match. I was going to join a group, and it took them 3 hours to do a fight, and I just thought, nope, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do that. So I totally understand. I don't like 4th edition. I like 5th edition, but D&D has always had that push and pull between being a loot grinder, very much like the Diablo, where you're mid-maxing, or also being this kind of more fun, optimized, or sort of more fun or not more fun, I shouldn't, because for some people it's not more fun, more loose, less structured improvisation or sort of story-based system. Because actually I was telling Ben about this. I went on a road trip a couple weeks ago for funsies, and what actually I did is I stopped by and I did a pickup group for D&D. I just was curious. I went to a comic book shop that had D&D night, happened to be in town. I was in Austin, Texas, so I just sat down and played D&D with a bunch of strangers.
Oh, cool.
And
We should have that.
yeah, I had a lot of I had a lot of fun. I was a really diverse group of people. I played a bard. What was my bard's name? I don't actually remember now.
The bard named Bart.
Yeah, it was something trolly. I picked a very kind of outlandish character.
I like that you just wander into people's strangers D&D's games and it's just I'm gonna break the system.
Yeah, that's actually my DM said, you know what? I really love it when people don't optimize their character. He said I really like the suboptimal players, which I was sort of a backhanded compliment to me.
Well, yeah,
because,
that's him
they were
being
very.
thanks for breaking the game, buddy. Made my job harder.
I think I added a great comedic spirit to the Enterprise and made it much more fun than it would have been otherwise. No, it's very arrogant. I have no idea. I had a good time, and they seemed to have a good time. But my point at all, they were very systematic. Like it was I mean, they played with 5th edition rules, but they like kept track of XP points, and like there was an official campaign like that they were doing to like they would get stamps on their cards.
Oh wow!
Like they had like a sheet, and like Wizard of the Coast had these pre-baked campaigns that they were playing, and you would actually go on a website with your account number, and like the DM would give you his account number, and you could actually like upload. So when they were going to me and saying like, "Oh, do you want to like upload your stuff?" I'm looking at them like, "No, I'm not." Well, how are you going to get your XP? I'm like, I guess I mean, I don't. And they're like,
don't care.
How are you gonna level up? It's like, well, since we kind of make all this up as we go along, I guess, you know, with that, like it, yeah, that big, all were a lot of fun. I'm sort of, you know, picking on them a little bit, but I had a lot of, I really enjoyed myself, and you know, everybody was very casual. But I guess to push against, I guess your point in terms of like what people want from the game, I could see. Like if you're Wizard of the Coast walking into like those kind of pickup groups, you're thinking like, oh, because like there's this one actually like an older woman who had like a map she made, and it was like a big like leather like paper that she had, and it had like a grid system, and she had like figurines that she passed down. She provided it for the whole like table.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see someone like a Wizard of the Coast guy like looking at her and being like, oh, this is the face of D&D. Like, this is what we need to really cater to these players. So there you go. You can say I'm wrong. Happy to be wrong. That's just my...
Well, you kind of actually made the point against yourself in that with a system that's more customizable like 5th edition, because 4th edition was, your characters were not customizable at all. It was like, these are the exact things they get. Yeah, you get a choice between one of two things, but they're so perfectly balanced that there's no min-maxing. And some, you know, had options that were better than others, very rarely. But 4th edition was just so balanced that it kind of took out the customization a lot with your characters. And that's the thing, is like, with a pen and paper RPG is like, you know, I want that option to be able to min-max, but I want that option to play the offbeat character. I want to play that druid that is allergic to green plants, and you know, be able to do that, and it makes sense as long as I make the character make sense. Whereas 4th edition is like, oh, you're a warlock. Here's your list of 10 abilities. You choose 6 of them, and there's just no customization to that. Where which there's a little. But, you know, with going from 3rd edition, where, like, you could really, with almost every character, you had so many options to make your character unique and your own. It kind of opened up to where the min-maxers are happy because they can figure out what the absolute best skills are and the best feats and all those things for their character. But the customizing character can go, hey, you know what? I'm going to play a barbarian that dual wields, and I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my only point, I could see, like, like, if they're doing kind of these, like, official, not quite tournaments, but, like, this sort of way of keeping events, I could see why 4th edition would be, I could see, like, a mid-max, like, people complaining, like, well, I want to play my character this way, but it's like, in order to be in this group, I have to mid-max. So I could even see, like, a 4th edition sort of trying to be like, okay, well, we're going to make it very obvious what you have to do, or really restrict the sort of the customization you're going to have, because once you restrict that customization, like, it's hard, like, oh, we don't need to worry about mid-maxing because everyone's going to kind of have that. Now, of course, yes, you lose that customization, but as you said, like, it balances out for those, like, events, which maybe they thought were more important. But of course, I think as we ultimately agree on, it wasn't fun, you know, or it wasn't as fun. But I could see Wizards of the Coast. I guess when you say, like, how could they have made such a terrible mistake, I am trying to rationalize, and maybe they just made a dumb mistake. Maybe you are very right, and they just didn't know what they were doing. But I could see Wizards of the Coast people kind of looking at those events and people complaining, like, oh, I didn't make my max character, so now like I'm falling behind or I die really easily. I'm not having fun. Or people complaining like, yeah, they're making all these weird offbeat characters that are bringing us down. So then being like, all right, let's like streamline this, or let's make it much easier to make sort of that maximized character, lose some options, but maybe that'll make the game experience sort of more coherent.
I can see that.
I think the one good thing that 4.0 did do was that it made people look into a lot of the alternative pen and paper games.
That's what Pathfinder was for.
Yeah, Pathfinder specifically. But I mean, I think 1.2 is like, we've talked about pen and papers and like all the sort of paperwork that comes with it, where it's more complicated than filing your taxes. But there is plenty of pen and paper games also where it's like, it's not like that at all. It's very straightforward, and you can even make those games straightforward that we just talked about.
Right.
Like the very casual pen and paper RPG. There's one Malcolm told me about where it's like you're all personalities inside this one individual.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's a correct. It's a really weird one. I think it's called. God, I forget what it's called. Who's in charge or who? Well, so basically the premise. It's a really So the premise is sort of essentially so instead of
everyone is John.
Everyone is John. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially the roles are reversed. Instead of one DM and 5 players, there are 5 DMs and 1 player.
Ooh.
And the 5 DMs have separate goals, so they all want John to do something. And at the beginning of the game, you get to pick 2 things when you're in control of John. He's supernaturally good at. So like when I played the game, I made John really good at karate and rollerblading. I don't know; those are the 2 things I thought of.
Yeah, it's not like
roller ninjas.
Roller.
Yeah, it's not like picking skills in an RPG where it's like, I'm gonna be good at this magic. It's like, no, you could just be like, he's good at guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Like
random
you can't.
mundane things.
Yeah, exactly. Like great at cooking, or do a great Christopher Walken impression, like whatever.
Yeah. Just whatever you can think of.
And so if you roll, you roll just 1 6-sided, and I think like 5 or above you succeed, 4 and below, essentially like you lose, and that goes on to the whoever is next. Like whoever else gets to be in control. I kind of forget the exact rules.
I think you either like say whoever's next, or there's like sort of like how Fate has, where you have like there's like a set of chips or tokens, and you sort of
I think control
of John.
You could. Yes, I think we had that too. We bid for control of John, and then all of you have like a goal that you will write down. Okay, I won't say mine because mine's, I guess.
I know what yours is.
Well,
no, after you're talking about your robot, no, probably don't do that.
Okay, I won't tell you. I won't tell you mine. But either way, I won that one, which is great.
That's
but yeah,
incredible.
it's just it. You don't need to know anything about wizards. You don't have anything about dice mechanics. Like you can just, and it's like it's just a fun little story kind of game, and you can talk for John when he's sort of, or she is trying to get through their shenanigans.
I think
essentially whoever gets.
I think the appeal of the goals too is like, much like the skills, you can make the goal anything. So it's like you could have it be like, I want John to get ice cream from this store, all the way to I want John to open the rift to Lovecraft World and summon Cthulhu.
Oh wow!
Like, or like I want John to build a time machine. Like it can be as weird as you want, and of course the DM sort of has to facilitate. Well, I guess there's a scientist somewhere that can help you open Cthulhu's gate or something.
I think there's a Necronomicon in a bookstore somewhere or something.
Yeah, we could figure that out. So yeah, that was a weird. That's like a fun sort of super streamlined. You could even do that like a party game, like with people.
Yeah.
That's like, and you just don't even call it D&D or a pen and paper RPG. It's like, oh, there's this fun little game. It's kind of like charades, but you use dice, or and then you could just trick everyone into playing it. And then once they finish it, they had fun. You pull the mask off, and you're like, ha ha ha! You played a game.
You now summon the demon.
Exactly. And then you pull out the 5th edition D&D game, and you're like, all right, now let's really play a game.
That's one of the things about pen and papers is like, it's not limited to the book.
Right.
Is you could really, once you've become familiar enough with just how pen and paper works, you could really sit down and create your own system. As long as you're fair to your players as a game master, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. Like you can, we played a game of D&D where we had guns and stuff, and that's not supported in D&D.
Yeah.
It was very modern-esque. So, it's one of those things. That's the great thing about it. It's just the custom ability. But I've got to bring up one more thing. We're running out of time, but I got to bring this up because I know our good friend Whit, that writes into us every week, would absolutely just rip my head off, worse than Peter Jackson ripping Lord of the Rings to the shreds. If I didn't bring this up.
You can't just throw that out there. You can't ever do that to me. He does it every week.
So, but he would absolutely just rip my head off if I didn't bring this up, and that is the GURPS system, which is another revolutionary pen and paper RPG system. Now, sadly, Whit, I do apologize. I'm not super involved in knowing the GURPS system, but it actually was what Fallout was. Whit's informed me of this, so give credit where credit's due. It's actually what Fallout was originally going to be based on, was the GURPS system.
Oh, okay.
So, do any of y'all know what GURPS stands for?
Nope.
I've heard of it. Hang on a minute. Google to the rescue.
Yeah, GURPS is essentially like, it's a Steve Jackson. He's the same guy who does Munchkin, all those. Like, he's the one who created the system. So he's a quality game designer.
Yeah.
Okay, so it stands for the Generic Universal Role-Playing System.
Yeah, so it was pretty revolutionary because it kind of did what D&D did, but bringing that pen and paper to any genre you wanted it to be in.
Yeah.
So you could play, high sci-fi with, starships and, Star Trek and Star Wars type stuff, or you could play caveman.
Yep.
That's really cool.
It's just a system that's begging for a fresh coat of paint for whatever sort of setting you want to put it in.
Right. Yeah. And from what I understand, again, I've never played the system. I'm mainly a D&D kind of guy. I played a little bit of Mutants and Masterminds, which is the superhero version of all that. But from what I've understand, like, it's a really good system for like an easy introduction into pen and papers. Because it's not super complicated like D&D can be.
No.
Can we be honest? D&D is like advanced pen and paper.
I already said it earlier. D&D is more complicated than filing your taxes.
Yeah. Oh my God, is it? So guys, we have officially run out of time.
Every day.
No. It's like every week this happens. Yeah.
We can never avoid it.
That's why we can't have nice things.
So
exactly right.
So when are we going to do like a 24-hour podcast?
Never.
Yes, no, never. Nobody would want to listen to us for 24 hours straight except for Whit.
I don't want to listen to anybody for 24 hours.
Is Whit? Is he watching us right now? Is he probably? Is he going to listen?
He's not watching. He always watches after.
He's going to watch afterwards and then send us a lovely thank you note.
Yes. We do enjoy those emails, by the way, Whit. This week he sent me one that was rather long, that was broke up to potentially just pick and choose what I wanted to use in the show. I'm sorry, Whit, I didn't do that before the show, but we do appreciate your feedback.
We appreciate everyone's feedback.
Yeah, every week. So for those, if you've heard any opinion on the show, for anybody listening, feel free to comment on Facebook, email us, whatever way you want to get in touch with us. Tell us how you feel. We want to know, not just your opinion, give us feedback, what you think we can improve. We do this for you guys anyway, so we definitely want to hear from you.
And our narcissism.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't do it for any of you. I just want you to know that. I mean, I do it. Now, for anyone listening, I don't do it for you. I just want you to know that. I want a very. I want.
You want to be the heel guest announcement.
Yeah, exactly. I want to have a very adversarial relationship with my fan base. That yes,
much like how you wander into
fan
people's.
Base.
Dr. Malcolm was trained by Dr. House.
Much like how you wander into people's.
Oh, that yes.
Break the system. You wander into our podcast and drive away our listeners.
Yeah, I'm actually really sorry, guys. If I've hurt your viewership, I feel bad. I feel like every time I come in, I tell myself that I'm going to be good, And then
then you swear.
you drop the
F-bomb
F-bombs
on everything.
I know. So far, I have. So far, I am the
sex
one that has
bots.
ruined. It's really well.
That's
I
all the
don't. I
topics
don't.
Jamie wanted to talk about, and now
I
he
don't.
can't.
I don't regret. I don't regret the sex box.
You say that's the topics that Jamie wanted to bring up, but he's over here with Gug and Mama Gug. Like, he's the most wholesome.
I was
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
hold back, and then this guy tries to take it from me.
Well, no,
Um,
you adjusted accordingly. You became the pivotal, like, to balance it out. So we
Someone had to.
appreciate.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
appreciate your adaptability.
You're the.
Shut up, doctor.
You're the Bonnie to
thing.
my Clyde.
I don't know if that works. Wait, so y'all are a murdering duo?
Well, he is a sex bot.
Yeah. So I am. I could. Yeah. I could roll to.
If you want to see shows like this on the Disgruntled stream, give us money now.
All right.
Yeah. So, speaking of giving us money, Patreon. It is.
There's a toilet. You can flush it right in.
Yeah.
It's right here.
You can go to Patreon, search for the Disgruntled Geeks. We are the worst dollar you will ever spend. But seriously, guys, don't feel obligated to give us anything. We just bring it up because every little bit helps towards our web hosting. So if you ever feel like you want to, it's $1 per month is our lowest level. That's like 25 cents an episode. I mean, where can you get
But
that
if you
amount
don't,
of bang
we
for your buck?
understand.
Yeah,
There's plenty
yeah.
of tools to flush away your money in.
Exactly. So.
It's no big deal.
Also, if you would go and rate us on whatever your podcast streaming software is, whether that's Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, whatever you use. And I'm not going to be like most podcast hosts and be like, hey, go give us a 5-star. What's the number we're going for this week?
Well, I think
5-star.
No, I think since Malcolm was on and his adversarial stories and just crude manner, we're going for 1.5 stars.
1.5 stars this week, guys. But also, when you do rate it, please give us your feedback. We want to know what we can make better. Our numbers, you guys know I'm very transparent. Our numbers continue to grow. We had our first day with over 30 downloads in a day.
Oh my goodness!
And we cannot be more appreciative of you guys.
This is the face of appreciation right here.
Right. And we actually had 2 days. We nearly got 40 the next day. So
More
you guys,
appreciation.
you guys are absolutely amazing. We appreciate you supporting the show. Like I said, we do this for you. Also, be keeping your eyes out every day. Now, I haven't quite got to the daily point yet because of the fact I'm working on a move. Once I get moved, it's going to be a lot easier to make it every single day. But keep your eyes out for the Daily Disgruntled. I just, before this episode came out, released the first part of what's going to be a 3-part series about The Last Jedi. So it's just me basically ranting about what I dislike about things. So
He hasn't quite talked me into it yet, but you never know.
and Ben might show up in an episode.
I may. Or it may just be me solo. Who would ever want that?
You solo.
I have.
It would be Ben Solo. Oh!
Goodbye.
Oh man, well, that was it. That was a good note for him to leave on.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm still here.
Yeah. It's just no. Sorry for the feedback there. Like I'm gonna have to reprimand Jamie. Like he's gonna have to take like a 10-minute stint in the closet. He's been there his entire life, anyways.
Oh.
Which we still love him. What's that
We
song from Avenue Q?
Huh?
Yeah. So if you got that joke, you're
Yeah,
a
that
Broadway geek. So I love we got Ben as this little tiki guy on the screen for the Twitch viewers right now.
This is who I am in real life.
Right. But guys,
Don't ever pay attention to the feed. It's this right here.
yeah, definitely, guys. We definitely appreciate you. Again, sorry for the busting your eardrums if you were listening on the earbuds. I'm angry. No, you're okay, JB. But guys,
You just have to make Ronnie edit. He's very upset about that.
right. Yeah. So keep your eyes out for the Daily Disgruntled. It's really fun. I'm enjoying recording it. And it's going to become more daily as my life kind of settles down from the move that I'm going through in the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, moving is hectic. I understand.
Yeah. So guys, definitely Malcolm, Jamie, thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, really glad that you guys were with us.
Yeah, happy to have you.
Malcolm, we might invite you back
Maybe.
To be honest, that's down. I mean, I understand. I understand. If you're like, hey, I'm like, hey guys, you need that podcast again, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we're doing it. I mean, well, our people will call your people. I don't have anyone. I mean, we'll get in touch.
Somebody will talk to you. Don't worry, it's fine. It's great.
No,
Someone will
definitely.
be in contact with you.
Definitely, we're gonna have both of you back. I feel like both of you are part of the regular team for the Disgruntled Geeks. So,
Even though you
don't
signed
cry,
your
Jamie.
papers.
But that is the end of the show, guys.
Finally
Malcolm?
here.
You got any last words?
Yes. Oh, do I? Oh man, do I have the last? Oh, like the last word, like what Ben does?
Do you have any last words before we? Before the end of the show.
Yeah, Dr. Malcolm.
I do have one last word. I do want to quickly plug, if anybody's listening to this and does want to get into a campaign other than D&D, Monster of the Week or Dungeon World. If you guys are fans of the Adventure Zone at all, they're doing Monster of the Week. Very cool campaign system. Really like it. Really want to try it out soon. Check it out if anyone's interested in sort of either you're burnt out on D&D, new to it and intimidated by D&D. I think it's definitely a very interesting new system.
Okay. Any last words?
I like pie.
Okay. Very, very enlightening last words from Jamie there. Guys, don't forget about our sponsor, Tupelo Sports Cards. If you're ever in North Mississippi, they are your place for miniature games, hobby games, card games, anything you think of, including sports memorabilia. Anthony is absolutely amazing, so definitely go check him out. But this has been the Disgruntled Geeks podcast, the most honest, critical, and sometimes cynical podcast you will ever hear.
See you next week.
Stay disgruntled.
Laters.